Hi, good evening. Very good evening to all of you. So this is day 12 of our sessions for SBI PO mains. This is the first day on which we'll be doing two sessions basically. So there'll be a session on essay as we are doing it right now. We'll do it, and there'll be another session that we'll take at 9 o'clock. That'll be about last year's reasoning section. So that's the first day. It's got us slightly hectic for us. So we thought in last 2 weeks let's do a let's probably make them slightly power packed in the sense that let's do 8 to 10 sessions for you. Fine. So this is about descriptive, and this is just about just to set the expectation right, just about the first part of descriptive. So this is about essay writing. I'll be taking another one shortly, and that will be about letter. So I thought I'll probably segregate them. The two are slightly different. This is the tougher one, and letter would be easier. I mean, just the formats and everything should not be too much of a problem. So that's the agenda for today. Just before I start with this, I'm not going to give you any gyan today. No gyan. Will be just practical thing. I've taken up a topic. We'll try writing on that. Fine. So just before I start, I'll just want you to take 2 minutes and tell me exactly what you want me to deliver in this session. If you can kind of tell me, it'll help me customize the session. There is no set agenda. My agenda is simple. I'll give you a topic. We'll write it together. Bus. This is it. Nothing else. So if you've got something else in mind, do type in the chat window. I'll just have a look at it and customize it accordingly then. So that's the agenda. Please type whatever you feel like type in the chat window for the next 1 minute, and then we'll proceed with the agenda. Just around 10 comments would do. I'll get to know what exactly you expect, and then we'll proceed with this. Okay, format, write effectively. Cybercrime, what is it? Cybercrime is one of the possible 500 topics probably. How many paragraphs to write? Valid point, Saurabh, and I have seen people struggling with it. Okay, introduction, inference, how to frame them, word count, okay. Vivek, not letter today, it will be just essay, letter in a couple of days. It will be a short session, I'll do it. We'll announce in advance. Okay, let me just kind of start addressing them. Let me just come back on screen. Okay, I've broadly gone through all what you have to say. Format is something that I'll tell you about. First things first, the important thing is that it does not need to be a strictly 3-paragraph format or a 5-paragraph format, nothing like that. The thing that you need to remember is that you start with a short paragraph, you end up with probably a shortish paragraph, and then something in between. So it can be 3, it can be 5, it can be 6, depends. So nothing like you introduce it, then the body, and then the conclusion, nothing like that. So don't prescribe that. Another question that I faced was people said was, is it okay to talk on both the sides? It depends on the question completely. It depends, and they give you absolutely anything. So it's not structured again as the nature of SBI. They give you absolutely anything. They give you topics in which they do not ask a question. They give you topics in which they will ask you a question. Do you agree? Do you not agree? A general topic, a topic like honesty is the best policy, something like that. They can give you absolutely anything. So from asking from Brexit to a topic like honesty is the best policy, it's absolutely everything, and it varies accordingly. Fine. There are things that apply to all the essays, so I'll discuss those today here. Fine. When it comes to selection of topics, my advice for you would be, don't go for a tougher topic. Pick a topic on which you can write. Fine. So if you have to pick from 2 or 3, pick a topic on which you can write. So do not think about impressing the evaluator. No. Think about writing well. He'll be automatically impressed. So pick a topic on which you are most comfortable. My problem with current affairs topics is that it's very difficult to remember the numbers and everything. So if you do not know the numbers, it becomes slightly not that good. So I have taken a topic in which you need numbers, but I have not used actual numbers. So just to what I'm doing today is not writing an expert's essay for you. No, what I'm doing is just trying to tell you how a student should be able to write. So not tell me it's kya likha hua hai, this is bad. You'll not find it bad, you'll not find it like somebody writes as an expert. So I have not written it in 3 hours or something. I was just thinking about the format of this particular session. I realized that let's do a topic and let's try writing it together. So that's the agenda. Fine. As far as the list of tentative topics is concerned, what can appear, I have not prepared it today. I'll put it on the FB group by tonight. Fine, list of some 20-25 topics that you can prepare on. But my problem with the lists is that the moment you do it, you start thinking that this is an exhaustive list, which in case of an essay cannot be. So you can just hope for one of those topics to appear in your 2 or 3 topics that you are given a choice to work on. Fine. So this is why I am slightly skeptical while giving the list. Your ability to write well is important. Topics are not. If you have been reading current affairs, which you have been for the preparation of your interview and mains, it should do. I mean, you don't need to do anything special. You can kind of anticipate the current affairs topics. And as far as the generic topics are concerned, you cannot do anything here. If they give you an ambiguous abstract topic, what would you do? You cannot do. Let's say I give you a topic like 2 + 2 = 5. What is that? That's nothing. You cannot prepare it. Fine. So the important part would be your ability to frame your thoughts well and articulate them well. That's the key. Fine. So I'll take care of all these things that you mentioned. Let me just kind of proceed and let me just remove myself from the screen first. I'm giving you one topic. I'll tell you the agenda. I'll ask your queries later as well. I'm giving you one topic. Read it and I'll tell you what exercise to do on it. It's a very generic one, not very easy, not very difficult. This is your topic for today. Fine. So this is your topic. I'll read it. It's how important is tourism for Indian economy. Fine. So this is a bit of economy. This is a bit of generic thing. This is not exactly current affairs. This is not exactly an abstract topic. So it's a bit of everything. You need to know a bit about Indian economy, a bit about tourism. Not a very difficult one, but if you don't have any numbers at all, then might be a slightly difficult one. Fine. So that's the reason why I thought I'll take a topic like this and then we'll try writing. Now what I need you to do is just listen to me carefully here. Whenever you start writing, so what we are doing is I'm not going to give you a list of a list like this: to do, not to do. Fine. This is prescription. So whatever I have to tell you, I'll tell you in between only. Fine. If you do this, it becomes very, very boring. I had created a list like this. I realized that's like so extremely prescriptive and boring that you would actually not follow it. So whatever do's and don'ts are there, I'll keep telling you in between. But what we are doing for now is that we are working on this topic. So what I want you to do is, just think about it. You get 30 minutes. Fine. You get 30 minutes for 2 tasks. This is what you get. So let's assume for this, for the next 30-40 minutes that we are doing this. So we're not doing this letter now. So let's just assume that we have got around 15 to 20 minutes for writing this essay. Fine. So we'll complete this session in 40-45 minutes only, probably 1 hour most. Fine. So the first step when you get a topic is jot down some points. You write some points about it. And since you are typing it and not writing it, it will not be a waste of time. What you are supposed to do in a topic like this is, the moment you get it, you start jotting down your thoughts. So you don't need to do it on a piece of paper. Just type it down. When you type those things down, you can actually manipulate, cut, copy, paste, and then form a meaningful paragraph out of it, right? So that's the advantage of being able to type and not being made to write. So the first step here would be, I'm erasing this. The first steps here would be just make a list of those points which you think should come here. Now the first tip from me here, this is probably the most important thing. Read the topic carefully, very, very carefully. Fine. This is about 2 things. This is about tourism and this is about Indian economy. Fine. In isolation, this would be a disaster. In isolation, Indian economy pe kuch bhi likhna would be a disaster. Somebody was asking word limit. I will say around 250 to 300. Fine. Do not make it 500. If you go to 350, I am fine. If you stick to 200, not glad, because in 200 words it will be like very difficult to convey your thoughts properly. So my number would be around 300, but if you are at 240, do not be worried. So I'm again not prescribing anything. 250 to 300 is the sweet spot for me. If you've got loads of stuff to write, you can probably go up to 350. Not beyond that, you don't have time for that. Fine. So what we are doing now is just jotting down thoughts for this. It has to be very, very specific to the topic. Just understand what the topic says. The topic is about the importance of tourism for Indian economy. It's not about Indian economy. So what you don't need to do is this. Indian economy, I'll tell you what mistakes people make. Indian economy, the first thing that will come to mind is it's a mixed economy. Fine. We used to be socialist, moving towards capitalism and something like that. We are not discussing that. We are not talking about Indian economy. We are just talking about the importance of tourism for this. Fine. Likewise, another mistake that you can do is focus a lot on tourism. Fine. India aisa hai, India waisa hai. There are so many wonderful places to visit, and Agra is like that, and Delhi is like that, and Chennai is like that. No, it's again not like that. So you can probably write a line on tourism, or write a line on Indian economy, but the most important part, the crux, would be the connection. Don't forget that you just have got 250 words. Use them effectively. Every sentence has to be used very, very effectively here. That's the key. Fine. What does the topic say? The topic says how important is tourism for Indian economy, or I mean, it kind of, so it's not a question like a different topic in this would be, let me just write this only. A different topic in this could be something like this: is tourism important? Just realize the difference. Indian economy. Fine. Let's say I give you something like this. Now, do you find some difference in these two topics? Yes. This is the topic which wants you to answer in a yes or a no. You might say, no, it's not that important, not much. Or you might say, yes, it contributes around 10% to the economy, something like that. You getting me? So this is a different one in which you can write on both sides, write on this, write on no, or whatever. In this one, it's just asking you how important. It's already implied it's important. Fine, how important. So probably it wants you to talk about the contribution, the factors that are affected, and what all it contributes to the economy. Are you getting me? So when you're jotting down the points, just look at the topic carefully. I don't mind if in place of 10 seconds you give it 30 seconds or a minute thinking about what it's talking. It's very, very important to stick to the point. Importance of tourism to economy, that's my topic. Now just write it down in your notebooks or whatever you have, and then type in the chat window. We'll make a list of the exhaustive points, and let's see what I've written, if it's in sync with what you are telling me, or if it's it's going haywire or what. It's not an expert's essay, it's a layman's essay, the way you would want to write. Fine. So I'm giving you time to do it. Just start writing in your notebooks, kind of make a list in your notebooks on what all you want to write, and I'll just put it here on your screen, and also type in the chat window. Start the exercise now. Whatever important points I get, I'll just write it here. Tushar, I said de sakte ho. You can introduce tourism, you can introduce economy, but the problem is you just have 250 words. Use them judiciously. I'm not prescribing anything. Don't do this, don't do that. Fine. Just make sure that you utilize these 250 words effectively. Just make a note in your copies or everything. After that, after 2-3 minutes, I'll give you time to write it down in the chat window, and we'll make a list of relevant points. Ramita says taking a stand but not belittling the other side is okay. Yes, absolutely. You have to sound reasonable. Fine. So when it's between a yes or a no, you can do that. Though it is there, but I think something of that sort. It's fine. Okay, about vocabulary, you should use simple words. Use fancy words to articulate. Articulate करने का मतलब अपने को ठीक से समझा पाना. So articulate well. Do not just stuff it with fancy words. Don't. Time management, 15 to 20 minutes for the essay, 10 to 15 minutes for the letter. I'm just reading your questions and answering them. What should we write first? Your call completely. Samik, typing speed is never a problem in this. I'm reading all the comments, do not worry, keep working on this. Okay, somebody is asking if it's appreciable if we write an essay with some quotes. Yes, I'll tell you a trick about that as well. It's very difficult to find quotes, but not that easy. About the list of topics, I told you I'll share the list of topics by tonight on our Facebook group. You can go through it. I'll give you some 20-25 topics to practice on. Okay, I think I've read most of the queries now. Akshay, the letter would be smaller. Do not worry about the letter now. Work on this. Letter should be smaller, 150 to 200 words maximum. Okay, Arpit, when you have hardly any knowledge of the topic, choose a topic in which you are slightly better. I'll say that. But if you still think you have a problem, then choose a generic one. A topic that requires numbers and you don't have any numbers, then it's not a great thing. Yes, Tirthiman, I'll talk about everything. We are doing this exercise. I'll keep giving you all the tips in between. So there is no one page that lists it all. It will just be for you to make notes for yourself if you want to. Fine. So you can just start putting your thoughts in the chat window. Fine. I'll put everything that I feel relevant. Do not just spam it. I'll just start writing whatever I feel like writing here, so that we can frame an essay on that. Fine. So just start this exercise now. I'll tell you how to begin. First, do this exercise. In the first 2-3 minutes, you have to jot down some points there on what broadly you want to write about. So the thing is that you do not start like this. How important is tourism for Indian economy? I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I'll tell you, 50% of the people would start like this. Tourism is very important for the Indian economy. I mean, I'll not be surprised if 80% start like that. जैसे in our schools we used to do this. Question लिखा उसी में से आंसर पिक कर लिया. Tourism is very important for Indian economy. ठीक है, इसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, but can you think of something more interesting or catchy than that? So just think about it. It's important. Make a list and then pick something out of it. If you can start with a code or a number, wonderful. Okay, let me just start writing the points based on what all you have said. Contribution to GDP, absolutely vital, very, very important. Foreign exchange generation, again an important point, absolutely. What else did you say? Oh yes, yes, wonderful. Employment, absolutely, employment. Yeah. Anything else? Let me just jot down all the points. I'll tell you how to explain. Just be a little patient. Okay, I'll tell you what all would I not want to put here. For example, somebody says global image. It's fine. This is a point. Somebody said cultural exchange. Fine. In fact, somebody mentioned medical tourism as well. All these are valid points. So I'll just put them in the list. I'll explain what I'll pick and what I'll not. Let me just go through your list. Okay, wonderful points. Kilada Naidu says helps in raising FDI and all. Yes. May help, right? Okay. I think I've read most of these points. Boost our economy, ठीक है. Education, tourism, medical tourism, all this is there. Fine. Okay, let me just explain what I'll pick and what I'll not. Okay. Chalo, let's say this is the list that we are working on. I'll tell you what I'll pick. This is extremely important. GDP, contribution to GDP, I mean, that's the first thing that you'll talk about. Now, the problem here can be, if you do not know this number, what do you do? So, you have to have some idea about it. So, I have not assumed that you are an expert on this, but if you have still got some idea on what tourism contributes, they'll help, because otherwise you'll say it's an important contributor to GDP and you do not have have no clue of the number. It's not that good. So this is an important point, nevertheless, for us. We'll use it. Foreign exchange generation, extremely important. I mean, how many sectors are there that actually generate foreign exchange earnings for you? No, not many. So this is one. I mean, there are so many Southeast Asian countries. The economy of the countries depend completely on tourism. What kind of tourism is something else, but completely on tourism. So foreign exchange generation, absolutely vital. And for a country of India's size and magnitude and variety and wonderful sites here, this can be huge. Third, employment generation, cannot neglect that. When you're talking about economy, employment, unemployment, this all becomes wonderful. Now, when we talk about global image, look, this is okay. I don't have a problem. My problem is, where do you stuff it in 250 words? You can talk about this. You can talk about cultural exchange. Obviously, this is a positive. But these are not the points on which I will be gung-ho. Fine. The reason is that we talk about global image, you will be wasting 2 sentences on it about how it, and India ke case mein, there is another problem, na. Most of the tourists who go back from here do not carry a positive image, so many of them. So I don't know if I want to put it here. I did not put it in my essay. Cultural exchange is a very good point. In fact, so many tourists who come here are actually, I don't know if I can say very happy with the culture, but very excited by the culture for sure. Fine. So they find it different and all. So that way it's an important point. But when you talk about the impact on the Indian economy, maybe a direct impact, indirect impact, but not direct impact when you talk about culture. Medical tourism, education are examples. Fine. You might say that if tourism happens in this form, in the form of this medical thing or education thing, it's a small part of it, but yeah, it's there. It has started happening. In fact, medical especially, it has started happening. So this can be included, cannot be included. It depends completely on you. For me, this is another important point which finds a mention or should find a mention. FDI. But if you ask me, the 4 things that I talked about when it comes to the impact or when it comes to the advantages, I talked about GDP contribution, I talked about foreign exchange generation, talked about employment generation, and talked about FDI, and then elaborated these points. 250 words, it's enough. You don't have time more than that. Now, the important point when you talk about when you talk about this is how to start this. Fine. There are 2-3 ways to start an essay. I'll tell you. It's a very small paragraph that I've written. You can start with some numbers. Fine. You can start with a generic statement. Fine. Numbers, by numbers I mean a statement like tourism contributes 9.7% to India's economy, something like that. So you can start with a statement like this. That's an okay type of start, no problem. Fine. You can start with a generic statement like the tourism industry is important for the development of any developing economy or something like that. Fine. You can write a statement like this, so it can be written in place of this. Another way that you can start is, a lot of people say that is quotations. But the problem with the quotations is, how do you remember them? I mean, it's actually difficult to remember a quotation that's relevant to the context. Kitni yaad hongi aapko yaar? I mean, if I talk about it, I'll probably remember 20, 25, 50 quotations, not more than that. So where do you stuff it in? That's the problem. So there is one thing that I use here, and I think I use it well. Even if you have got some idea of, as to what can be written, and there is some quotation that you remember, have just a vague idea from some obscure person, you can put it. I'll show you how I did it in this thing, because I was not getting a good place to start. I wanted to start with the quotation, especially in this case, because I wanted to show you how to use it. So you can probably start with something like someone has said that, or somebody said that, because at times you remember the quotation, not remember the author. At times there are wonderful quotations by people who are not known to you. So you can always start like that. So I have started this with a quotation here, a small one, and then followed up with a generic statement. So I've started with a very, very small paragraph. So let me just move forward from this page. These are the topics on which we'll broadly talk: GDP, foreign exchange, employment generation, and FDI. At least this is what I have taken. You could probably have put medical tourism as well, which I have not in this essay. This seems like an okay kind of point, but it did not strike me there when I was writing this, because I don't have the numbers for this. I have no clue as to how much percent of the total tourism revenue generation in India happens through medical tourism. I don't have the numbers, that's why I have not put it here. I mean, I did not want to do any research and make it an expert's essay. Fine. So I'll just move forward and show you the first paragraph that I've written. This is it. Just have a look at it. सोनू सेज नंबर्स एग्जैक्ट होंगे या पास में चल सकते हैं. सोनू, I do not, I do not think anybody can remember exact numbers for everything, absolutely everything. If you ask me about India's literacy rate, I kind of tend to forget exact क्या है. So चलता है. If you can say it's around this number, it's okay, it's fine. Should not be way off mark. I mean, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि कोई नंबर 10 है और आप उसको 50 बोल दे रहे हैं. So if it's 10, you say around 10 or 12 or 8, it's okay. I don't think they are going to check your exact numbers. If you put some wrong facts inadvertently, of course, Jaspreet, you will not do it deliberately. It can turn into a disaster. Just then hope for the person to not know the facts. Don't try bluffing the numbers. You can, probably use words like approximate or around or something like that. All right, I'll just come to what I did here. I remembered this quote from somewhere. I actually like this quote. I don't know who the author is, but I actually like this quote. Probably a word here and there, it happened. But I thought if I have to start with, I could not remember a quote on economy or something. I wanted to start with a quote desperately. I thought, it'll probably sound a little better. So I remembered this. I put this here somehow. It says, travel makes one modest. It's a wonderful quote. That's why I kind of remember it. You realize what a tiny place you occupy in the world. Very good quote. That's why I remembered it. I probably thought that's one place where I can use this quote. So I just stuffed in there. Now look at what I've done. It can be done. So, I mean, not every quote would be written by, a Barack Obama or a George Bernard Shaw. नहीं होता ना ऐसे. And it doesn't work like that कि आपने बोला कि if I'm writing it, it has to be from a great person. No, I don't know who the guy is. I mean, what difference does it make? No, nothing. So you can start simply by saying somebody has rightly said this. So just a one very, very small line on tourism, how it's important, and then you come to the point straight away. So the starting looks good. So this is one of the things that you can use for everybody who says कि मैं कैसे याद करूँगा, क्या करूँगा. यार कुछ तो याद होगा ना. There are so many things that we keep saying and keep hearing from a lot of people, and just put it there. Just think about it. यार, if you think every problem can be solved. So this is one thing that can be used. It works for me. If it works for you, wonderful, because I do not remember quotes with the exact person who makes the quote. So I use this often. It looks good. So think, if somebody starts reading your essay, it says somebody's rightly said travel makes one modest. You realize what a tiny place you occupy in the world. An immediate feel good feeling कि हाँ कुछ तो ठीक लिखा है इसने. And the second sentence, you are bang on the point. Tourism industry plays a major role in any country's economic development, and India shouldn't be an exception. Fine. So had this quote not clicked to me, what I would have done is I would have started with this one. So this is a perfectly fine start in this case. Tourism industry plays a major role in any country's economic development, and India shouldn't be an exception. What you could have further written in this, had you not used this quote, because you probably would want to make it 2 sentences, something like that. It is, I mean, just a way to think. It is especially important for a developing country like India or something like that. Developing, you can write anything. It just should sound reasonable and should not be factually incorrect. For a developing country like India, with vast natural resources and something that blah blah blah, whatever. So it becomes 2 sentences. And so if you don't use this, tourism industry plays a major role in any country's economic development, and probably I'll just omit this line. It is especially important for a developing economy like India, which boasts of wonderful flora and fauna and something like that. So you make your first paragraph like this. So this is a paragraph in which you are just kind of making the person who is reading it comfortable, and then you probably build on it. So I hope you got an idea on how to start it. A quote, a number, a generic statement, or something like that. Now once we are done with this, let's say we write this first one here. The next paragraph, you should again strictly come to the point. Now what were my points? I was talking about GDP, I was talking about employment there, I was talking about foreign exchange earnings, FEE if you can call it, and stuff like that. So this is now the paragraph, and we'll start talking about those things. So let me just move forward and show you what I wrote in the second one. Yes, Shailendra says, can we just omit this? Yes, you can do this as well, whatever way. Whatever sounds reasonable is okay. So there are no prescriptions here. If you just want to start it like this, you start with this line. Fine. This is fine. This is absolutely okay. You can omit this line. I kind of liked writing it like this, so I wrote it like this. If you want to start with this, you can start this. Just omit this quotation marks as well. In this case, you can start like this. A perfect start to this, and then proceed with this. Okay. I'll show you the second paragraph of this, and meanwhile I'll read your comments on this. Just go through it. So that's the second paragraph that I wrote here. Mudit, how can they check 45,000 essays? Essays are checked only for people who pass the objective test, that multiple choice test. Abhi Ravinder says, can we make our own quote? Yeah, dekho, I mean, you can do it. If you can do it, but I actually doubt that if you'll be able to make a good one under that pressure. If you want to bluff. If you have to bluff, don't bluff with the numbers, bluff with a quote. But I would still not advise that. Don't do that. Okay, yes, how about a wise man once said, yes, you can use that. I'm telling you can use anything. Okay, just read this paragraph quickly. I'll just explain this, what I did here. All right, now let me just explain it to you what I did it. I talked about some 3 or 4 points over there. If you look here, I have just written almost all of it in this paragraph here. I talked about GDP here. So I had an idea that it's around 8 to 10%. Some people say it's 7.5%. Some people say it's 9.5%. But it'll be in this range. So I'm okay with that. So I'm not asking you to put 9.6% something there. No, it's okay. Moreover, since it talks about direct and indirect involvement, so it's a number that you could never agree on. So this is good enough. So I talked about India's the tourism industry's total contribution to India's gross domestic product. So this is fine. But look at the starting sentence here. If you realize, I did not talk about anything new here. This is important. This is very, very important. Fine. This is important in the sense that you are very often asked not to repeat. So if you are not to repeat, you'll just be left with kind of just 4 sentences there. So what you do when you have to repeat, you are basically emphasizing on something. So when you emphasize on something, the important part would be to just remember this. This is a tip. Change your vocab and grammar. This is my favorite that way. What does it mean? It basically means you are paraphrasing the same thing. Paraphrasing, you understand? You're writing that same thing again in different language. So it's not that I did not add anything to it, but if you look at this, I kind of elaborated on this here because I did not want to start the paragraph with numbers straight away. So what I read was tourism is one of the fastest growing service industries in the country. You can always write that. I mean, it's a statement which will apply to so many industries, so it's okay. It's a perfectly safe statement that way if you realize. Now, had it been let's say not tourism but let's say hospitality or something else, I could have written almost the same line here. So it's not something that's specific to it. I mean, just think about it. It's logic. With great potential, I can write it with any growing sector. Just think about it. Tourism के जगह यहाँ कुछ और होता. Had it been something else, I could have still written a line like this. This is a very generic statement. Fastest growing service industries in the country with great potential for further expansion and diversification. This sounds much like jargon that way, but it contributes to it. It contributes to effective writing. So I repeated the same thing but with 2 good looking or good sounding words: further expansion and diversification, which is in any case required in any industry. and after that I came to numbers because मुझे को अपने words भी पूरे करने थे ना, so I wanted to write something that does not sound redundant but still gives me an emphatic statement that kind of further consolidates or builds further on the argument. Then I come to my data here. Now in data also I'll tell you certain things. Let me just clean the screen so that I can explain the relevant points here. Now I'm talking about this statement because this is very important according to various estimates. अब मुझे नहीं पता था where does this data come from. So these are kind of connectors only for you. What I knew was this, that it has to be some 8 to 10%, and then I framed the sentence. So when I framed it, when I wrote it in rough, it was like this: tourism contributed around 8 to 10% of India's GDP. Fine, out of which around half would be direct and half would be indirect. So the complete sentence that I made first was this, just this part. Look at this part. Tourism contributes around 8 to 10% to India's total GDP directly and indirectly. This is what I knew and this is what I had written. GDP 8 to 10% contribution. I did not know the exact number. I did not bother checking it, including both direct and indirect sources. Now look at how I built this sentence. One is that when you quote something and when you give numbers like this, it's always safe to use something like this. So I'm not saying put it verbatim, but you could have said a study says, various estimates say, people say, or something like that. I mean, I don't know what all can be written in this. Just use your brain, think of something like this. So, but when you put numbers and you're not 100% sure about it, and it's something as dicey as calculating the percentage contribution to the GDP of tourism, you can use such statements. It kind of looks and sounds better. So when you start like according to various estimates. So various estimates, when you will not go and catch somebody and say कि तूने ये number बताया था, मैंने वो number बताया. Various estimates मतलब this is my general understanding because I'm a learned person. I read newspapers, I read editorials, I read magazines and all. That tourism would be around 8 to 10%. कहाँ से quote करोगे कि मैंने Outlook में पढ़ा था? It's very difficult, no? So according to various estimates, tourism contributes this to India's total gross domestic product directly and indirectly. And then I wrote this line as well. This is again important, very important. I'll tell you why this is important and how you build on this. I'll just ask you a very simple question. Let me just erase this and let me talk about this line. Why I wrote this. For example, let's say there's a box with you, and the size of the box is let's say something like this, 4 inch into 7 inch or something like that. Right? So what is better generally? If you say something like I have a box that measures 4 inch into 7 inch, or say something like a box that's of the size of a shoe box. Think about what I'm doing here. So when you do this, it provides a context. It provides a context in the sense that you can immediately relate to it. Now the reason why I've written this is, and isn't far behind the much touted IT industry, is that IT industry has been the blue-eyed boy of the corporate for a long time now. Not now, but for a very long time. So when I'm comparing it to this, it gives me an idea of how important tourism is or how important tourism can be. Are you getting the point? So another way of writing the same thing would be, had I got more space, would be to put it in context. We can say, to put it in context, tourism industry isn't much behind the percentage contribution to GDP of the much touted IT and IT services industry, something like that. Fine. But since I did not have much space, I wanted to compare to give them an idea. So what this statement does is, it tells you that it is this thing, and it also tells you, don't forget, ये जो हमारा IT industry है जिसके बारे में हम इतना बात करते रहते हैं, उससे बहुत ज़्यादा पीछे नहीं है. Are you getting the point? So it puts things in context and makes the writing more effective. Use this. I have used this more than once in this complete thing. So that's just to give you an idea on how to write slightly more effectively. Just remember this shoebox example. You would always get the context in all such examples. I'm erasing this and going to the next sentence now. Now the next one is simple. When you talk about tourism, the thing that should click to you is the ancillary industries. Fine. The industries that are related to it in some way. So tourism would be so many things. Tourism would be hospitality as well. Fine. Tourism would be transport as well. Tourism can be so many things. Food and beverages, matlab F&B industry, that's also related. So when you are writing this, if you've got even a slight idea of this, you can always name these industries, and which gives me a good enough data point. It gives me a one good sentence, and also shows them that this person can think. So what I've written there, a large number of businesses engaged in service sector such as airlines, common sense, hotel, common sense, entertainment, obviously, adventure tourism and everything, food and beverages obviously is important, and to an extent even agriculture, but since I wanted to talk about this here specifically, service industry, I did not mention it, agriculture here. In fact, even real estate is related, but let's forget it for the moment. Surface transportation, etc. So I have named just these 4-5 industries and made a good sentence. So I am saying tourism इसके लिए भी important है, because not just for itself, it also gives a boost to all these industries. So now it's a very very solid point that way. I mean, you are telling them it's not just these numbers that I'm talking about, it's also about a few other related industries. So I'm saying it thrives with the growth of tourism in a country. Another thing I wanted to tell you here is that I could have used this word grow here. I chose to omit it and use a word called thrive. I could have used a word like prosper as well. Do not write two similar sounding words together. So I wrote this growth here, so I'll not use growth here or grow here. Are you getting the point? So these are the tips, these are the practical things that you should use while writing. So when I wrote it first, I wrote grow only. Fine. So I wrote, and you write the basic one and then you build upon it. So I wrote something like industries such as airlines, hotel, entertainment, F&B, surface transport, etc. grow with the growth of tourism, something like that. Then I change this grow with thrive. That's the advantage when you are actually typing and not writing, right? And you can keep replacing. And then I introduce this first part, which is again nothing but a large number of businesses engaged in. So this is just like framing a sentence, nothing more. So this is one thing that I added here, because ancillary industries or related industries here in this game become extremely important. Now the last 2 points of this paragraph, these are the 2 points that we wrote there in our list. So this is about just one line each. Tourism industry is one of the important engines to. Now this is just a way to put words in a better way. I could have just said tourism industry contributes to foreign exchange earnings as well. I could have written that as well, but just try using language like this. It looks slightly better and it's not complicated. I have not used a complicated word here, mind it. So I am saying also tourism industry and these connectors also. For example, had I written after this full stop directly, either I change the paragraph or I just start right from here. So had I written this tourism industry, it would have looked slightly disconnected. So we used connectors like also, moreover, we can also say in addition to. So all these connectors, you will get the lists on the internet. So whatever you are comfortable using, don't just stuff it anywhere. So it helps you in building the paragraphs. So once I was done with this ancillary industry part here, I wanted to talk about one or two more positive things about the tourism industry. So what I did was that I included an also and talked about how tourism industry also contributes to the foreign exchange earnings. Now you can see here that I gave no numbers because I did not have any numbers. Fine, I could have found the numbers and put it here, but then it looks like a very pedantic, very expert written essay. No, I did not have any numbers. थे ही नहीं मेरे पास, मैं कहाँ से लिखता? So but I knew that it's a contributor. So I just wrote, and it looks like a good enough sentence. For tourism industry is one of the important engines to attract foreign exchange earnings for a country. Good enough, no problem. Go to the fourth one down, this point. Moreover, this is again a connector. You have to add a point. So you can write this, you can write something else. At times words like consequently and all would do, but since it's an additional point, moreover is fine here. Moreover, with a little aid from the government, the sector can attract sizable foreign investment as well. Again, just wrote that same thing about FDI in probably 10-15 words and nothing else. Because when we are talking about FDI, you'll have to probably talk about government as well, policies and all. Fine. So I just wanted to write FDI. I thought let's write a more meaningful, a larger sentence, a bigger sentence. So I just put in this part here. With a little aid from the government, the sector can attract sizable foreign investment as well. It looks good. I think hospitality may, it's already like 100% investment allowed something. I don't know the data. I don't remember it. Cannot recall it. But you can write a generic statement like that. It will not cause a problem. So if you look at the second paragraph here, this is very important. I introduced with the first one. In second one, I gave I came up with a lot of points. So apart from employment generation, which I wrote in the initial list, I have put everything here. I talked about foreign earnings, foreign exchange earnings. I talked about FDI or foreign investment, whatever you call it. I talked about GDP, and I also introduced the ancillary industries here. So this is my major thing, second paragraph, which talks about a lot of stuff. Now can I move forward on this? Can I move forward on this? If you got a clue about what to write, let me just erase it and go to the third paragraph now. Read it now. Meanwhile, let me just read your comments. This is the third paragraph that I wrote. Okay, I think I'm back. Just type a yes in your chat window if you can hear me now. Guys, please type a yes in the chat window if you can hear me. I think I'm audible now. Yes, 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 yes. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, stop. Let me just continue with this. We already wasted 5 minutes on this. Fine. So we are on the third paragraph here. Let me just talk about this now. So you already saw what I did in the second paragraph. I gave most of the facts there. Now I need to build it further on this. So this is also an answer to the people who ask whether it's 1, 2, 3 or whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No strict rules, guys. Generally I find it difficult to complete in 3. It's very difficult because the 2 then becomes very lengthy, because 1 would be like 30-40 words, 3 would be again like 50 words, but 2 then becomes 150 words. No. So I generally break it up into 4 or 5 paragraphs. This time I've done it in 4. So this is my paragraph number 3 here then. Let's talk about what we have done. You realized in the last one that apart from employment, I mentioned everything else. I did not mention employment there and took it here because I had some data to talk about here. Now again, I did not have the exact numbers. What I knew is that if you talk about, I knew certain things. That India probably has got I'll just give you some data and tell you how I built upon it. India has got some 400 million workforce. I think that's a tentative number, but it has to be, that's an approximate number, but the workforce would be around 400 million. Out of it, I think around between 200 to 250 would be engaged in agricultural activities. So this is basic data that all of you know. So this is, it's like this. Fine. So it's around what, 50 to 60% in agriculture, something like that. Now I knew that tourism engages around 10% people directly, indirectly. So if you look at this, what I knew is that around 5% people. I talked about employment generation here. It's a small sentence and just wrote another one. It helps a country significantly in creating employment opportunities for a large number of people. If you look at this first one and the second one, they are not much different. I'm just talking about the importance of employment. But यहाँ पर I just introduced something like that. It helps a country significantly. If you ask me, what did I add here? Not much. I just made it sound a little better in the sense that I built up upon this idea. So the idea was that another contribution of tourism would be employment generation, and then I built upon it in the sense that I am now talking about this large number of people. Now India is a huge country. You could have written it anyway. You could have talked about population or something. But when you talk about employment, एक line तो बनती है ना about our country in specific. So I just wrote it something like, so it kind of helps me in using one sentence effectively here. So I just wrote, it helps a country significantly in creating employment opportunities for a large number of people. You could also have written something like, this is especially important for a country of India's population or something like that. So this is just 2 sentences, and then I come to the actual data here. Look at the actual data. It's vital for I have already written this. It's vital for a country like India with a huge workforce, and I did not get into the workforce. I just had these numbers, approximate numbers in mind. अब देखो, I have again used this various studies say. Why? Because I could not quote one particular source. So if you know one particular source which mentioned these numbers and you know the exact numbers, that this is 5.2, this is this is 9.4, this is 10.6, then you do that. I just had an idea. So to make it sound little better, what I did is that various studies say. There I had said certain research studies have said something like that. So just keep all these things in mind. Various sources say, various studies say, and you can use this while using approximate data in all such essays. So now let's come to the exact point, the exact line. It says that the direct share of employment in tourism sector, service industry in India is around 5%. Around 5%, no problem. I do not know if it's 4.2 or 5.8. I know it's around 5%. And with the indirect share included, it would easily cross 10%. So I know that it's around 10%, slightly greater than 10%. I gave both the numbers. After that, this sentence again is very important. I'll just show you this here. Now this is, I did not have much data to write about it because I had not done any research on this. Now this is important in the sense, the way I gave you that example of that shoe box and stuff, na, it is very similar here. I am again using that same thing here. I did my math quickly. I know that it's around 10%, around 50 to 60% would be agriculture. So the rest of it would be around 40 to 50%. So if you talk about this 40 to 50%, this would be around a fourth person. So you must have seen authors using stuff like that. So it makes it relatable. You can actually relate to stuff like this. So this is not written anywhere. You just remember it like this. Fine. So if I say something like every third person in the country is this, so it becomes, it becomes something that you can relate to, rather than saying that India's population 125 billion and 25 billion of them are whatever. You could say that, I don't know what the exact population of UP is. It would be around 125 billion. I wrote, what is it? 1.25 billion. Okay. So if I'm saying that, let's say around 200 million reside in UP. So I'll not say this. I'll probably say around 1/6 are in UP, something like that. So it becomes a better statement. So I have used that exact same thing here. So I'm telling them in just to emphasize upon the importance of this thing, and I did nothing special. I am saying this implies, again, this is a kind of connector only. This implies that almost every fourth person employed in non-agricultural activities in the country is directly or indirectly engaged in tourism activities. Now you getting what is happening because of this. This kind of tells you कि हर चौथा बंदा जो इस देश में काम कर रहा है वो टूरिज्म में डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली काम कर रहा है. दिस इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट स्टेटमेट. दिस बिकम्स एन इंपॉर्टेंट वन द मोमेंट यू से दिस इज 5%, 10%, these numbers look petty, but the moment this is like playing with the words in that sense, that you remove this agriculture wala part here and then you are making them realize no, that this is actually very important. So if you remove agriculture from the picture, every fourth person or every fifth person here is working directly or indirectly for tourism industry. So that way it kind of proves how important it is right now, even right now, for our for our industry, for our corporates. This is so important. This is an important contributor. And then probably after you are done with this, then you talk about what else can be done. So if you look at this part here up to this third paragraph, in number 2 and 3 we talked about all those 4 or 5 important points that we had written down. Now the conclusion is the thing that is left now. In conclusion you will talk probably about what is needed to be done, and probably I have just written 2 sentences about it because I did not know what to write further on that, and the words were incomplete. I mean, I'm just talking about the exact examination conditions here. So I just talk about very briefly about 2-3 problems there, and then just summarized by saying that it should be done. I'll just show you the last paragraph first, and then when discuss it we'll open it. So that's my last paragraph. Just read it. I'll explain what I've done here. Just read it. I'm just reading your comments very quickly. सुशांता से सर जल्दी करो, ब्रेक चाहिए क्लास के पहले. 10 मिनट और लगेंगे मेरे को, नॉट मोर देन दैट, 10 to 15 minutes, नॉट वरी. मुझे भी ब्रेक चाहिए. Guys, do not discuss the topics here. I'll give you a list by midnight today. I told you already. I'll put it in the FB group. You can pick it up from there. I did not put it here because I do not want to digress from the session. That those topics are not important. The way you write is fine. So start practicing. Let me just read it. Amit, I think it's between 300 and 350. I did not count the words. Okay, so let me just explain this last paragraph to you as well. So till this point I have explained everything about the positives and everything. I did not have anything to write. मेरे पास कुछ नहीं था, मुझे words का अंदाज़ा नहीं था कितना था. I wanted to write something. So I thought that probably I had read it somewhere that India ranks pretty low here. It's a huge country and it's very low. So I thought I'll probably start with saying mentioning a few minor issues and then we'll end it up on a high. So that's the idea. That's why I structured it like this. Look at this first one. Despite its size and the wealth of sites to visit, so I'm talking about a positive again. I'm saying it's a huge country with so many natural resources and everything. India ranks pretty low, around number 40. Again, I did not have the exact number, and these things keep changing. But I know that it will be between 30 and 50. So I said something like that. It's not bad if you do not quote the exact numbers. मेरे पास नहीं था. I did not have even the source of that study. Probably some United Nations study or something like that. So I just wrote 40 here. When it comes to the ranking of the most visited nations of the world, which is the most visited nation? France. Fine. क्या कंट्री है इंडिया के आगे? कुछ भी नहीं है, बट इट इज. यू लुक एट द साउथ एशियन कंट्रीज, द नंबर ऑफ टूरिस्ट पर ईयर वुड बी लाइक 5 times India attracts. So this is something that actually tells you that it has got huge potential. Now what I'm implying here is that it is still like 8% of the GDP or 9% or whatever the number is. Now when we are not utilizing our potential, so the implied message here is that if we actually work on it, this can become huge. Are you getting it? So it's not an irrelevant statement here. I am saying a country of India's size at number 40 in terms of the visitors, it's pathetic, it's actually bad. You getting it? Now we build on it. Although foreign tourists arrivals in, because I again read it somewhere, foreign tourist arrivals in India continue to grow for the last few years, the relative growth has dipped to an extent. I hope you got this. Number of tourists बढ़ रहा है, this is like DI, but the rate at which it's growing is actually going down, which is a serious concern. Again, not much data needed here, or if you have an idea of this, and you write on a topic only when you've got some idea about it. Now this is the one statement here in which I talked about certain issues, just some very very basic issues. सबको पता है, all of you know this. Visa and paperwork problems, all of you know official issues, how they happen in India. I mean, with e-visa and everything, government has tried to work on it, but still there are issues. It's not very smooth, the way some countries that focus on tourism do. Inadequate infrastructure, no rocket science, all of you know that. And safety, आमिर खान ने कितनी बार आपको आके बोला कि कितना प्रॉब्लम है, अतिथि के साथ ये करो वो करो, you all of you know that. So this is again not something that you could not have thought of. Very basic 3 points: visa and paperwork problems, inadequate infrastructure and safety. Probably with a bit of thinking I could have added 3 more here, but not required. This is enough. You just have 15 minutes for this. Are the ones that the tourists most complain about. Just one statement. So I'm saying India ranks pretty low, there are some problems and there is potential. Again, after this, the Indian government needs to target liberal policies. Why I am talking about this? I am talking about this because I am talking about the importance. When I am talking about the importance of tourism to the economy, I have to show them a future is bright wala picture, and it is that precisely future is bright wala picture. So what I am saying here is the Indian government needs to target liberal policies or aim for or object for liberal policies. All right, all of you understand what I mean by this. And relaxation in taxes, when you ask something from the government, it invariably has got something to do with the money and taxes and all. So again a very generic statement that can be used anywhere in any industry. So had it been some other industry, I would again have written relaxation in taxes. So this is just playing with it that way. So if you look at this complete piece, I don't know much about tourism. मतलब मेरे को ज़्यादा नहीं पता है. All this is stuff that probably I'll not say anybody or everybody would know, but all this is stuff that a fairly well-read person would know. कुछ भी इसमें कोई rocket नहीं है. So you talk about relaxation in taxes, safety, inadequate infrastructure, target liberal policies, but words like this sound good. So if I just say tourists have so many complaints when it comes to the Indian when they go back from the Indian visits and all, it would not have sounded good. So you just put in 2, 3, 4 major issues and it sounds slightly better. But the important part is that you have to jot them down. So when I was writing down those 4 points there, I should also write stuff like I'll mention policies, I'll mention relaxation in taxes, I'll probably in the last paragraph mention safety, inadequate infrastructure, procedural problems, red tapeism, and stuff like that, and then it completes it. So I'm saying here in this point that this needs to be done for, now this is a sentence in which I've said this needs to be done for the sector, and since I think I was overshooting, I just wrote for India to flourish in tourism and establish itself in the global market. This again is an important line in the sense that I'm talking about what can tourism do for the economy. So if India can become a power when it comes to tourism industry and something like that, it will be wonderful for India, and it will be definitely growing by using this. So I can definitely say it can become a superpower in global market in this. And just for the last sentence, because it did not look like a last sentence and I wanted to write something very quickly, I just added a sentence like that. I'll just remove it in this thing. यहाँ पर मेरे को खत्म करना अच्छा नहीं लग रहा था. I did not like it finishing here. So because it was like the Indian government needs to target this to establish this, I had to write something here. I had to write something. What do I write? So I thought probably write with a very generic positive statement like India possesses the natural riches to become a force to reckon with. Something like that. सोच के देखो इसमें is it a difficult sentence? Is it look like it's been written by an Ayn Rand? No, it is something that all of you can write. I could have used in place of natural riches something like natural resources, flora and fauna, and something like that. So many sites, wonderful sites, wealth of sites. I could have written anything, but I ended it with a positive statement saying that if government does this, India can become a superpower in this field, and then ended up with saying something like this. Had I been, very learned or something, I would probably have loved to put another quote here, but I could not recall anything, and that's why I put it something like this. So the idea behind this essay is that I wanted to show you that even with very limited knowledge and very very average language, the important part would be vocabulary and grammar, but without using any flowery words or anything, you can actually write decent stuff. I do not know how much would I get on an essay like this, but I'm not aspiring for a 50 out of 50, right? But I don't want to get a 20 either. So if I get a 40, I'll be like reasonably satisfied with this. You realized in this I did not have much data, just kind of collated the thoughts as well as I can. So that was the idea. Now if you've got any questions, please ask me now. I'll address the questions and we'll wind this up in the next 5 minutes. Praveen, the exact number of words is not important. Nobody counts that. Believe me, nobody counts that. I think this one would be between 300, 350. Even if it's 250, you get an idea. Nobody counts the exact number of words. Don't worry. If it's there, the counter, very good. But don't get finicky about it. Okay, Nayan says, do we need to give headings as well? Nayan, you can, you may not, because for me 250 words is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. Rameta says counter is there. Wonderful if the counter is there. Very good. Okay, I'll address that. Tarannum says, what should we do, more reading or more writing or practicing? Because reading is one part of it. You have to do two things. You have to read in order to know, fine, and you have to start writing, practicing. So my advice now on would be at least write one essay daily till the day of the mains. It's very important. You actually have to practice writing 15 essays. Write them down. Even if you don't have anybody beside you, you can actually check for yourself if it's well written or not. It's no rocket science. Once you're done with it, see for yourself what you could have done in it. जैसे analyze करने के लिए मैं बोलता हूँ ना, the way I asked you to analyze other papers, analyze your essay as well. You will come to know whether it's well written or not. पहले कौन सा करना है, whether essay writing or letter writing depends completely on you. You can probably go for a letter because it would be very format driven. I'll give you a format in my next session. It can be done very quickly. So probably if you ask me, because essay would require a little more thinking. So I'll go with letter first. We'll get done with this in 10 minutes and we'll get 20 minutes for the essay. If there has to be some logic behind something like this. Are you getting me? Otherwise, no logic, whatever you are comfortable with. I'll probably go with the letter. I'll finish it up very, very quickly in 8 to 10 minutes. Yes, letter writing would happen in a couple of days. I'll announce. Do not worry. Anything else you want to ask? Otherwise, I'll just wind this up very quickly. I hope you got the point. I do not want to give you a list of do's and don'ts. One advice that I just keep repeating is use connectors. The use of connectors is very, very important. Fine. I have seen people who can write well not using adequate connectors. Something like also, which I said in between as well. Moreover, they help you in connecting the sentences. Fine. So these are important. Consequently, in addition to, something like that. So you get a list, the complete one. The reason I do not give you lists is that the moment I give you a list of 20 such words, you feel like stuffing that in your essay. So that's the problem with giving lists, and I do not share any lists. This should come naturally to you. So if you see that there are two sentences which are not well connected, you put stuff like that. Fine. Now this is for support. Other way around, it could be in contrast. So if you're writing something that's which is going in the opposite direction, you can write something like in contrast. On the other hand, something like that. So these are connectors which make you help meaningful, good looking, good sounding paragraphs, which becomes important in this case. Arun, I already answered this, which is good one to start with. I'll do a session on letter writing. You are repeating those same things again, so I don't think, let me just read your comments very quickly. Using heavy words is not recommended. It should be very, very clearly understood. Heavy words, if at all, should be used only for articulation. If there is a word for which you do not think that there is a substitute, then you use it. For example, I'll just give you an example here. There is this word called soporific. Not a very difficult one. Many of you know this. Fine. Soporific means sleep inducing. Fine. Probably in a letter I would not use soporific. I don't. I mean, I don't know how. I know this word for a very long time, so it looks very familiar. But I will probably just write sleep inducing. If there is a word for which I don't I don't find a good enough substitute, then I'll probably use it. जैसे मेरे दिमाग में एक और word आता है. I don't know if you have heard of this. There is something known as playing possum. This is the exact spelling. Fine. It means if you are pretending to be dead or if you are pretending to be unconscious. That's the meaning of this thing, playing possum. Now this is something for which I could not find a substitute. So either you write that complete thing or you could just write this. So when you're using words, this is something you should remember. Use only those words when you talk about heavy words or slightly unconventional, tougher words, when you think that there is no substitute, and this actually helps you in writing well. So if you're just writing he was playing possum, it means that he was either pretending to be dead or pretending to be unconscious. So it actually adds brevity to your writing. I hope you got the point. Do not stuff words unnecessarily. That's it. Anything else? Let me just address it, and then list of connectors you also need. I just gave you 5 or 7. If you want, I'll put it on FB, the list of connectors also. Yeah, POSSUM. Find it out. Playing possum. Yeah. Okay, means playing dead or even playing unconscious. I think it's used both ways. Taranum says, what if my essay remains incomplete? There'll be a disaster, I'm telling you. It'll be gone. Fail na ho jana, nahi karna hai. I mean, the counter is there with you, the time counter, use it. Letter and essay ka marking scheme, is there a difference? I think essay 30, letter 20, something like that. If my memory serves me right, check that out. Yeah, don't worry about that. You will not allocate time accordingly. I already told you 15 to 20 minutes for the essay, 10 to 15 minutes for the letter. Okay. FB पे class नहीं होता है, you'll get posts and something like that. So I'm winding this up. I think we are more or less done with this. Let me just come on the screen very briefly and then we'll move to the next one. Alright, so this was it. I did it a little differently in the sense that I wanted to do something different from what people have been doing. If you want to get hold of the list of topics and everything, you will get it over internet. I will share it with you on FB. Do's and don'ts, very simple ones. Revise the session once, you will get all the do's and don'ts. Nothing much. Write freely, write well, practice writing, and if you use 50 rules or keep 50 rules in mind, you will just kind of keep recalling the rules. All these things should come naturally to you. You should not go back to the rules and say, okay, उसने बोला था इसमें ये नहीं करना है. ऐसे करोगे तो कैसे लिख पाओगे? Start writing, start practicing. It should be ingrained in you. Fine. It's not that okay, उसने लिखा था कि ये नहीं use करना है, so I don't use that. It doesn't work like that. Revise it once, whatever I said. I mean, I'll give you some tips if you want. Make notes for yourself and then practice writing. Today is what 23rd. So you've got around 10 to 12 days more. At least one essay daily हो जाएगा. I'll not promise. I thought I'll say I'll check a few essays on FB, but it looks impossible at this stage. So I'll not promise that. But do write. Others do check. It's definitely going to help you. I'll put that list of the possible topics by midnight today. Positively, some 20-25 topics. If you want, you can practice on that and read some stuff on that. So this is it from my side today. Another session in around 40 minutes. Samir would be discussing last year's reasoning section. So be there with him. All of you who have problems, especially in the section. I wish you guys all the very best. We met after a few days today, but not anymore. I'll be with you again in a couple of days, probably with letter, and I have to do a couple of sessions on DI as well. So I remember that. Do not worry. I haven't forgotten that. Thank you very much for your patience. Let me take your leave now. I'll just move from the screen. Stay back for the second session today. I'll start in around 40 minutes. Thank you very much for your patience.